Welcome to the Prime Real Estate Network channel on YouTube. I'm your host, Mr. Prime Real Estate, Ric Davis.
And I'm your host, the Texas Real Estate King, LarryWBrooks.
Every week, the King and I will provide you exclusive access to our network of lenders, investors, and real estate professionals from both the commercial and residential real estate sectors.
Now, are you millionaire minded? Or maybe you're a millionaire in the making. Make sure that you subscribe so you can get connected to the network. And always remember, the Prime Real Estate Network, where millionaires are in the making.
Create wealth for generations. Good day. Welcome to the Prime Real Estate Network podcast. I'm your host, Ric Davis. If you don't follow me on social media, I urge you to do so at Prime Real Estate Ric. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in residential or commercial real estate anywhere in the great state of Texas, you can reach me directly on Instagram at Prime Real Estate Ric. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you this week, and I want to thank everyone in the audience for checking us out. If this is your first time viewing the Prime Real Estate Network podcast, I urge everyone, smash that subscribe, like, and share button. It helps us in the algorithm, and it allows us to get this message out to as many people in the real estate community as possible. I want to thank you in advance for watching and sharing, and I look forward to sharing this week's episode with you, man. Today's episode is really exciting. It's one of those episodes that's going to be chock full of real estate investment nuggets and education. And for those in the real estate community, we are celebrating here at the Prime Real Estate Network National Women's History Month. And on March the 24th, that's a Friday, here in Houston, Texas, the Prime Real Estate Network will be celebrating women in business with the Prime Real Estate Rockstar Party. Everyone in the real estate community, all past Prime Real Estate Network guests, all those agents at Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm, you are personally invited. You can go to the Prime Real Estate Rockstar Party invite link. We'll be sharing that with you. And you can also scan the QR code that you see on the screen currently. Remember, that's March the 24th, Hinkie and Pilot, downtown Houston, Texas. Man, we look forward to meeting, greeting, and interacting with the entire real estate community. Man, this week has been really busy in the state of Texas from a real estate perspective. And this week, some of the most important information that's been gathered by the National Association of Realtors was shared to the real estate community. And I want to share some of that information with you all now. Every year, the National Association of Realtors does a survey where they interview all of the home buyers in the state of Texas that closed on a property in the previous year. And there have been some really interesting statistics and interesting information that has come from those surveys. I want to let everyone in the real estate community, buyers, sellers, investors, but most importantly, real estate brokers, agents, and real estate professionals understand that for those who bought properties in the state of Texas last year, 72% of those buyers shared that they only interviewed a single real estate agent before they decided who to hire to help them on their home buying journey. So for all those agents out there that are following up with leads, that are going out, that are asking for referrals and recommendations, you are absolutely on the right track, because after hearing from those home buyers in the year 2022, what we know as real estate professionals is the first qualified agent that has an opportunity to interview with the client is most likely going to win the opportunity to serve them as far as their real estate and home buying needs and help their family with their investments now and in the future. And of those buyers, another 75%, which is 3 out of 4, reported that they will use that same agent for all their future transactions. So if you're a broker out there and you've been talking to your team about the value of follow-up, the value of not only servicing your clients before the sale, but also after the sale, continue to harp on that knowledge, continue to harp on that information, because the home buyers have spoken. I want to bring in our co-host, and this gentleman definitely has an opinion about that topic and how important it is to service your clients before and after the sale. And I want to introduce him at this time. My co-host You know him oh so well. He's not only a highly successful real estate broker, he's a multi-time author, a serial entrepreneur, the proud proprietor of the Pure Hustle clothing brand, back from being on assignment and planting flags for the Prime Real Estate Network all over the United States of America. I want to thank you for being back in the saddle with us, and I'd like to introduce to the audience the Texas Real Estate King, Mr. Larry W. Brooks. How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I missed that warm introduction, man. No doubt about it, man. How you doing today, Rick? Things are good, no doubt about it, man. So, yeah, man, I heard that statistic you just rolled out. That shouldn't be surprising to anyone when you really think about it, right? Excuse me. Excuse me. It shouldn't be surprising to anybody when you think about it, because first impressions is everything. You get that one opportunity to make a great first impression. And if you're a professional and you do this real estate thing each and every day, you know when you walk in, you know how to put the numbers together, right? At the end of the day, every realtor walks in with the exact same numbers. No one's going to be walking in with numbers that's going to be varied, because we all have access to the exact same system, professional system. So when you get in there, you get an opportunity to get in front of these clients, you know, be professional, most definitely state the facts, make them love you, and then that's it, right? People buy and do business with people that they enjoy, like, and love. So you want to be that person when walking into that room with them.
Now, one of your professional strengths, Larry, has been the value you put into the follow-up and servicing your clients after the sale.
Yeah.
Because those same buyers reported on a 75% assurance level is that they would use their first agent as their future agent.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, how important is it to you to service after the sale? And how often do you try to implore those new agents to understand the value of that constant contact, constant follow-up, and staying in your client's life after the sale?
Facts, you're right. So, Rick, here's the thing. There's no easier. The one thing about sales, not even just real estate sales, but sales in general, to have a client that you've serviced, you've closed a transaction with, I don't care how hard it was, how unhard it was, but to be able to stay in communication with them, they're going to be the ones that's going to easily send you good, warm referrals. I guarantee you, in that 72%, there was a large amount of people that had warm referrals that they were sitting down with. So because it was a warm referral, I have no need to meet with 3 and 4 different realtors. I'm going to go with the one that my Aunt Joni used, my cousin Cynthia used. I'm going to go with that person. So you want to be that realtor. You want to keep your warm network. And when I think of servicing people, you got birthdays. I'm always saying hello on your birthday. No, I'm never going to miss your birthday. If I'm following you and we're friends on social media, if a big event is taking place in your life and I see it, I'm commenting on it. And so you always got those soft touches that's going to keep you relevant to those people. But most definitely never miss a birthday. If you have anniversaries, never miss an anniversary. You know, when they closed on the house, you should never miss an opportunity to say, hey, just wanted to see everything was going well. And if nothing else, right, I'll give you your 4th touch that you can have on a person of a year. When they get time for when it comes to the end of the year, I always remind them about their homestead exemption, right? You can, at the end of the day, it's just you reminding them. And so, I mean, that's 4 easy touches that you don't even have to think about every year when you come to those kind of clients.
Look, that's invaluable information, man. That's something that I can attest that you actually have always put into practice.
Yeah.
Before we were formally trained in sales, after we've been formally trained as far as how to be successful in real estate, that is something that I think all new agents can make a part of their initial marketing platform, and they'll start to see how that continues to drive their business, even after they're seasoned realtors and have been in business for a while. So I urge everyone to take your advice.
Yes, sir.
You know the great thing about hosting this podcast with you, Larry, is that we do everything we can to help educate the real estate investing public and provide them with professional mentors, people that they can follow on social media that's going to edify their need to learn, to grow as an entrepreneur and an investor. And today's guest, it has so many gems that he's going to share. So, Larry, for the members of our audience, could you just share a little bit about your background and your history with today's guest?
Yeah. So I first came in contact with today's guest on Clubhouse. So, you know, I've been an avid fan of Clubhouse since they actually started. And one time we spent a lot of time in a lot of the same real estate rooms, had an opportunity of being on the stages with him inside a clubhouse, then actually fellowshipping with him more on Instagram. And I actually was a guest on his podcast, on his YouTube page a few weeks back, and it'll be dropping sometime soon, and I'll be sharing it with our audience. So I had an opportunity of just really watching this gentleman do amazing things, and I trust him. I trust the stuff that he's putting out there. I trust the level of experience, and you can see it and you know it. So we've had some great conversations, and I'm just honored that he's decided to be our guest today.
Hey, man, look, I'm really excited. For those in the audience, man, this will be your last chance. Text, call, elbow your next door neighbor if you at the office in the cubicle, because today's episode, if you're a real estate investor, is one you cannot miss. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce this week's guest. This fine gentleman is not only a real estate investor, he's a real estate wholesaling expert, author, public speaker, and entrepreneur. I want to thank him so much for sitting in with us this week. And I'd like to introduce to the Prime Real Estate Network audience, Mr. Eli Louis. How you doing, sir?
All right, I'm great. How y'all doing?
Man, look, it's an honor and a pleasure, Eli, to have you sitting in with us, man. I was so excited because, of course, Larry and I follow you on Instagram, man. We see all the great content you're putting out. And I want to thank you in advance because the way that you educate your followers is so uplifting and inspirational. So first things first, for those in our audience who are meeting you for the first time, could you introduce yourself, your company, and what it is that drives you in the entrepreneurial and real estate investment space on a daily basis?
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah. So thank you again for having me on this show. It's amazing. I love the setup and everything. And I'm truly honored to be here. And so my name is Eli Louis. Some know me as Eli, the real estate guy. I'm originally from Central Florida, in a town called Apopka, north of Orlando. I graduated from the University of Central Florida with a degree in finance. I've always been interested in real estate. My family, my parents, they had multifamily investments that they had in Haiti, and growing up, I was always interested in real estate from seeing that as a kid, right? So there are two things I wanted to be as I got older. One was a real estate investor, and the second thing was to be in the NBA. The NBA didn't happen, but I was still able to go and be a real estate investor. So came out to Texas in 2015, 2016 for a job opportunity as an adjuster. And from there, that's when I started that real estate journey. And I just remember being online one day and finding, wholesaling, right? Figuring out what wholesaling was. And that's when that journey began. So I started wholesaling around that time, moved to Houston in 2018, where I met my now wife. And we've been doing the business together. And now we primarily, flip properties because first, what I always recommend folks to do is first get into wholesaling, because then you actually learn how to find these deals and evaluate them. Then you want to graduate into flipping properties. And now we spend our time doing that and educating folks as much as we can about the process, because I know what it felt like just being lost and not really having answers. So whenever I can, I try to dish out as much information as possible so everyone can learn how to get started and grow from there.
Today's episode is entitled, and those that are checking us out on YouTube will be able to find this episode entitled "Flipping Ain't Easy." So I gotta ask you, Mr. Louis, what were your expectations as far as real estate investing and flipping homes when you first got into the game, when you first got into the mix, and how does that differ from what you actually experienced once you got involved and got your feet wet?
Gotcha. So one, I definitely felt like it was going to be a lot easier than what it actually is, right? So coming in, coming from a standpoint of a wholesaler, right? You're starting off, you have your rough numbers of what a general repair is going to cost for a project, and then you dish that off to an investor, and you never follow up with them to figure out what that actually looks like. But once you actually become an investor and you're flipping your own properties, now you start to understand, like, okay, you know what? I should allow a little bit more for tile flooring. I should allow a little bit more for this. My cushion should be a little bit more. And the biggest thing that I learned is, regardless of whatever your estimate is when you first start off, it always ends up being sometimes a little more than what it is. So perfect example, we had a flip that we recently did, and I didn't account for the pool having to be replastered. So that's something that was in addition. And with the plumbing of this home, the plumbing, it was fine. The water was flowing perfectly fine, but not knowing that the buyers of these properties, they were not comfortable buying a home with galvanized plumbing. So now we had to go in and replace the plumbing for that. So different things like that are things that I didn't expect. But now that we're on the other side and actually flipping, it gives me better insight on what folks are actually looking for and what works for the end buyer.
I have to ask you because I first were exposed to you via your Instagram and your social media presence. So, as someone who's actively searching for deals, actively renovating homes, actively putting them on the market to sell, how do you find time to create your content, to educate your followers? And what have you found is some of the prevailing questions that you get from the social media space?
Gotcha. So first, I would say as far as finding time, I love to produce content. I love to always talk about real estate. And whenever you love something, you'll find time to do it, right? And so I remember, I'm not sure who said this, but whenever someone says they don't have time for something, it's like, well, you find time to eat every day, you find time to sleep every day, you find time to do all these different things. And personally, I know that I love talking about real estate. Anybody that knows me, folks that I actually talk to on a regular basis, at some point the conversation goes to real estate somehow, right? And so to me, it's not an additional thing. Now it's just a matter of turning on the camera and just doing what I would naturally do anyway. And some of the questions that I typically get, like you're saying, how do you find deals, right? Well, there's different ways that you can find deals. And by one, being a wholesaler and me having all the information in the book that I wrote, it shows you tons of different situations of how to actually find deals. And that's why I tell folks to not start off flipping, but actually start off as a wholesaler. So that way you could actually learn how to be the plug first instead of now getting a bunch of deals from wholesalers and not knowing how to evaluate it, not knowing if this is a good deal or not. And you get a deal and all of a sudden you're losing tons of money because you didn't actually know what you were doing. So that's some of the main questions. And as I'm going through daily activities, if I'm in the flip or if I'm doing anything, I just turn on the camera like, oh, this is something that somebody should know. Let me turn on the camera and just let it rip.
Yeah. Eli, quick question. So, because I like the way that you say that they should most definitely do wholesaling first. It makes sense to me as well. When you think about it, what would be the level? So, wholesaling, then you go to flipping. What do you think the next few tiers of activity would be as you grow your investment portfolio or you grow your investment business?
Gotcha. Yeah. So right now, my wife and I, we're taking as much information as we can with the multifamily space. Right now we have a rental, but it's also that idea of if you're going to do single family rental properties, then you have to do several of them for them to make sense. If you're just doing a few, then replacing a roof for a home could just wipe out all your cash flow. So now we're focused on going into the multifamily space, and we're taking up several courses with that. We read several books, and I'd say probably within the next few weeks or so, that's when we're going to start really going full speed with that aspect of real estate, which is the multifamily.
Cool.
You mentioned earlier that your family back in Haiti were in that multifamily space. I'm asking you to go back because one of the great things about having this platform that I host along with Larry is that we get to have insight from so many talented entrepreneurs, not only about what they're doing now, but a lot about their past and their upbringing. So I want to ask you, when you think back to some of your earliest memories as a child, were you aware of the challenges that your parents may have had having that multifamily investment? I don't know if they were property managers and landlords, but all that goes into that. Or as a young child, were you oblivious, or is it something that they involved the whole family in? Were you there on site helping clean up and do stuff?
Gotcha.
So could you just give us a little bit of your insight as a young man, seeing your parents be in this real estate investment space and how it influenced you?
Gotcha. So I was born and raised in America, but we would just go and visit Haiti whenever the projects are going on. Okay. So I was never around when it came to actually getting my hands dirty. It was just a matter of going in and checking the property, seeing how everything is going, and my dad pointing out like, okay, We went ahead and added another floor. We went ahead and did this. We did this. Okay, this is what the bathroom looks like before it's actually done. This is where the toilet's going to go. And so from my perspective, it was always from that point of view of things are being built. We're just going to go see it. And I didn't know the details of everything. I just knew that I just never knew of a time where we didn't have a property. So we just went out there and it's like, oh, this is our property. Okay, cool. You know, like as a kid, you're not asking questions. It's like, oh, that's what that is. Okay, this is what this is. Okay, and you just kind of take that in. And so growing up, I wanted to get more insight from them on how to translate that to America, but I didn't really get a lot of answers. Right? I didn't really get a lot of insight from them. And you know, my dad, you know, he passed away a few years ago. But whenever I asked him questions about they're like, okay, well, how do you get financing from this? He's like, oh, you need a lot of money. I'm like, okay, well, how much money do you need? You know, he's like, a lot. I'm like, okay, well, do you know how much you're renting it out for? We get money. Okay, what does that mean? So that's when, you know, years later, that's when I had to kind of seek elsewhere for the information, because I'm like, okay, well, whatever the processes are over there, I'm assuming different from what it will be over here. So that's when I learned about the wholesaling. I learned about all these different ways to get in, because in my mind, all I got was you need a lot of money to start. So when I learned about wholesaling, it's like, oh, I don't need a lot of money to start. I can just start here and I can use wholesaling to make me money. And then from there, I can graduate to other things.
That's right.
Yep. You know, for those in our audience and for those that follow you on social media, that are really impressed with your story, that want to be involved and want to learn more about that investment space and learn under you. Do you take on mentees? Do you have a formal education platform? How deep does the wormhole go for those that want to truly learn everything that you know and pick your brain on a regular basis?
Yeah. So one, I would say the first thing would be, if you follow me on social media, and my handle is I am Eli Louis, and there I just give a lot of free information and I started a brand, Your First Steps, and the idea behind the brand is allowing people to understand the process of getting into real estate and taking your first steps in. So that's what the podcast name is, Your First Steps podcast. The YouTube channel is Your First Steps, and you can follow all that information for free, right? Now, the next thing I have is the ebook, and the ebook gives a lot more detail into how do you actually find deals, how do you evaluate deals, how do you find buyers, how do you find sellers. It comes with contracts. It comes with all this information that you need in order to actually successfully get your first deal in 90 days, like I tell individuals. Now, when it comes to mentors, I don't have a mentorship, but I do have a private Facebook group for everyone who does get the book. So everyone who gets the book, and the website is elitherealestateguy.com. If you all get the book, then from there, you'd be able to go in. If you have a question, then you can go and just pop that question into Facebook and I'll answer it for you. And that's your way of always getting that direct line with me. Because sometimes on Instagram, there's a lot of messages that come in and I answer, you know, the things that I can. But on that Facebook group, those folks are a priority. And whatever question that they have, I make sure I get those answers for them.
Good. What's the website for the book again, Eli? They most definitely need to know that.
Yeah, it is elitherealestateguy.com.
Good. Because I get questions all the time about how to get into the real estate industry. You know, if you don't want to be a licensee, and I'm like, listen, I'm kind of like you. I always felt like the wholesaling aspect of it comes first, so that you really get an understanding. You respect the business. It builds a kind of hustle inside of you, and then you can move into other areas of it, because then your vision will be a lot more clear. So definitely, they need to tap into someone that is that's involved with it, that know the steps, like you said. So by all means, I want them to be able to have access to that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You know that one of the great things about your story is that your father exposed you to real estate, but he made you stay hungry enough for the information that you pursued it on your own. Because we all know sometimes we are so passionate about certain subjects that we'll try to mentor people who haven't asked to be mentored. You give all the game, all the information to someone who's not in a position to want to receive it at that time. So as you've evolved, as you've matured in this real estate investment space, is there any one particular expert? Is there a book? Is there a group that you can kind of give credit as serving as like a lighthouse or inspirational role mark or something that inspires you on a regular basis to get out here and work through those challenges that come with being in the wholesaling and real estate flipping space?
Gotcha. Yeah. So there are several people that I was inspired by, learned from along the way. So the first time I actually heard about wholesaling was from a person, some people may know him, Jay Morrison. That's the first time I ever heard of wholesaling. So
Right.
Yeah.
from there, that's when that wormhole started, right? And I'm just looking at, okay, what is wholesaling? How do you actually do this? And that's when that whole process started. And so that started that hunger of what wholesaling was. And then it wasn't until actually years later, because at first I was against paying for mentorship. I was like, oh, I could just Google it, I could YouTube it. Why should I do any of this stuff, right? So I kept getting things like, non-refundable deposits, but I wasn't really closing deals until I actually decided, okay, you know what? Let me actually pay for this mentorship. And it was with someone I actually found on YouTube. Her name was Jennifer West Granham. And she does wholesaling, and she had a mentorship at the time. And so as I was taking her class, what was unique about her class is that she broke it down from the application standpoint of these are the different ways that you can market, but then it went into the mindset standpoint of, okay, you need to get your mind right? Because there's times to where I feel like the number one thing that stops us from achieving that next goal is, yeah, you're spinning your wheels, you're doing all this stuff, but your intention changes when you actually believe that you can actually do this stuff. So envisioning that you're going to get this deal, envisioning what's going to happen, envisioning the day that it's going to happen. And she got deep to the point to where she's like, all right, close your eyes. Imagine how you're going to park the car. Imagine how you're sitting down once you have the check in your hand. Like, envision all this stuff. So that way it's not someday it's going to happen. It's okay, in my mind, it has already happened. So now it's just a matter of just letting, the time sequence flow. So that was that part to help me with wholesaling. Also, my wife, huge support. And she helped me a lot of times when I was doubting myself, right? And so as I was speaking to her about different things that I was working on, she just kind of helped me get my mind right on, like, hey, make sure you're positioning yourself to be in front of as many people as possible. So instead of doing these things to where you only speak to a few people at a time, go do things like the cold calling. Make sure you're doing things like to where you can sit down in one spot and reach as many different people as possible. So that was a huge help from her. And then when it came to the flipping aspect, that was Otis James. I met him on Clubhouse. Great guy. He gave me a ton of information, and we signed up for his mentorship. And he said something that he used to say quite frequently, which is sometimes you're just one piece of information away from going to that next level, right? Mm-hmm. And so for us, that piece of information from going from wholesaler to flipper was the financing part, which is, okay, well, I hear people do financing from banks. I hear people do it this way, but you never really ask until we got that mentorship. And the difference for us was getting a personal loan. So that way we could take those funds to put as a down payment, partner that with our hard money lender, and then start the flip process from there. And also having that comfort of knowing that if I have any question, I could call Otis, because that's part of his mentorship is he's always available to answer any question that you have. So that was really key for us to go to that next level. And it's going to be the same thing for us going into the multifamily space, getting mentorship, having people we can contact, knowing that we can do it, getting the information, applying it, and moving forward.
That's what's up, man. Can't go wrong with it. I totally agree with it. You can't go wrong with it. And it's like you said, you want to be able to have access to these people, and especially the ones that have been very successful at it. So they can leave marks of their DNA. And usually those people love to share, and they want to see you win because you become an amazing testimony to the growth that they could have in the future. So it's that, yeah. And I concur. I've watched and been on the stage with Otis quite a few times, as well as watched when you interviewed him on your show. Did an amazing job, and he really loves giving when it comes to it. So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
And I have to ask you this because there's going to be members of our audience that would love to meet you, interact, shake your hand. So are there any opportunities? Are you spearheading any events? Are you leading any organizational functions? For those in our audience that would like to meet, greet, and interact with Mr. Eli Louis in person, will there be any opportunities in the future? And what's going on and what's on the horizon for Eli Louis, real estate investor?
Man, so it's interesting that you say that. My wife, she's been telling me to do events. She's the person who told me to do the book. So, of course, you got to listen to your wife because they help you get to the next level, right?
Right.
And so that's something that that we're in the works of doing. But right now, what I'm going to be doing is making sure I'm going to a lot more real estate events in the city. And I know you guys have an event that's coming up.
Absolutely.
So I'll make sure that I'm attending that event and just really putting out there to make sure that I'm really networking with folks in the city and meeting as many people as possible to let them know about the good word of wholesaling, understanding how to actually, become the plug, find those properties, and just graduate on. And some folks, they stay wholesaling forever and they do, really well. But my thing is, if there's more to do and if your desire is to do other things outside of that, then just use it as a stepping stone instead of saying that my cap is this, right? Because as a wholesaler, your knowledge, it gives you a really awesome foundation. But at some point, you want to be able to use that as like a leaping pad to go on to those next steps. So as far as meeting folks, I'd love to meet folks at the events that you guys will throw, and I'll make sure that I'm going to as many things that you guys are throwing because you guys are amazing folks, and I know your followers are the same.
No, I want to thank you so much for sitting in with us, Eli, man. You've received so much great advice from so many quality mentors and professionals. Before we sign off this week, is there any final message that you want to leave with our audience, a tidbit that may inspire or motivate someone that's dealing with challenges that may have maybe under budgeted for their last project and just got in a little over their head? Is there any advice that you would like to share with our audience this week?
Gotcha. Yeah. So there's a few things. So one, I would say you have to start. Yeah. Right. The biggest thing that I know happens to a lot of folks is the whole analysis paralysis thing. And they're always, reading another book, read another course. Let me watch one more video. Let me do one more thing. And, before you know it, a year has passed and nothing's happened. And so you want to make sure that you have a date to where it's okay, I'm going to take in this information, but on this day is going to be my first action of doing whatever that next step is. Right. And the next thing, as far as, when it comes to renovations of projects, I want to say also look for a mentorship, look for somebody who knows what they're doing. And yes, you want to move forward and have to take action, but part of your action could be finding a mentor and having steps on, okay, on this day, this is what I'm going to be doing. On this day, this is what I'm going to be doing. So aside from that, definitely, taking information, apply the information, and just know that you will be successful. And this is huge too. And I want people to remember this. You should not be afraid of making errors. You shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes. And sometimes people fall in this business. But if you prepare yourself enough and you have the right information, then you can mitigate those errors by getting the mentorship, and you'll be able to move forward at a much more accelerated rate because you have the support system around you.
Right. Hey, man, great advice. I urge everyone in our audience, go to Instagram, follow Mr. Eli Louis at I am Eli Louis. Go to the website, get the book, man, and stay plugged into him and his movement because he's doing so much from a free educational space. Mm-hmm. There's so much you can learn from his IG page that you don't have to invest any money in upfront. So I want to thank you so much. Larry and I look forward to working with you, having events with you, and interacting with you in this real estate space. If you ever would like to,
at that party.
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely. If you ever need us, man, you always got a seat here at the Prime Real Estate Network podcast. So, Mr. Louis, thank you so much for sharing all that information with our audience.
All right, awesome. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
God bless, brother. Come on, man. See, this is what I'm talking about, man. The Texas Real Estate King, man, been away on hiatus. You come back, guns are blazing, man. This is like a lovely, man. This episode is 3 fire emojis, man. Yo. So look, everyone in the audience, share, man. Yeah. This is one of those, man, where not only are you motivated, but also inspired and educated, man. So, Mr. Brooks, man, what's going on this week with you, man? What's going on in the world of Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm, man? Just catch the audience up with what's going on this week in the world of the Texas Real Estate King.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, I'm going to be in the city this week, but for the most part, if you go to my Instagram page, I post Or if you go to @Brooks and Davis Instagram page, I post all of the events and the flyers that we have. But more importantly, make sure you register, you RSVP for the Prime Real Estate Network Rockstar event that we're doing. Believe me, you don't want to miss it. We're going to have over 300 some people in the building of just having an amazing time, sharing information, sharing products, probably going to have a few vendors in there. So if you're interested in being a vendor, you're interested in being one of our sponsors, most definitely reach out to us about that as well.
Absolutely, man. Look, this is an exciting episode, man. For the rest of the spring, man, we have great guests lined up, great information. The Prime Real Estate Rockstar Party coming up on March the 24th at Hinkie and Pilot. Be there or be square, man. On behalf of myself, Ric Davis, and the Texas Real Estate King, Mr. Larry W. Brooks, I want to thank everyone in the audience for tuning into the Prime Real Estate Network podcast. And until this time next week, everyone out there, please be safe and be blessed.